The forest moon of Verity 7 was not kind to the forgotten. Fenric had learned this truth the hard way. The alien wolf, a creature of midnight blue fur and silver eyes that glowed like twin moons, limped through the undergrowth, leaving a trail of luminescent blood behind him. His kind, the Lavari, were apex predators on their home world of Thyros Prime, revered and feared in equal measure across a dozen star systems. But here, on this backwater human colony world, he was nothing more than an exotic curiosity that had outlived its usefulness. His former owner, a wealthy trader named Vexen, had grown tired of the pet project once the novelty wore off. Fenric had been released into the wild 3 cycles ago, left to fend for himself in an ecosystem he didn't understand. The Lavari were intelligent, far more than humans gave them credit for, but intelligence meant little when starvation clawed at your belly and every shadow held potential danger. The trap had been meant for something else. Some local creature, perhaps. But Fenric's desperation had made him careless. The electromagnetic snare had clamped around his front right paw with devastating precision, its energy field searing through fur and flesh alike. He'd howled a sound that echoed across the forest canopy, equal parts rage and agony, but no one had come. No one ever came for the neglected. For 2 days, Fenric had remained trapped, his proud form reduced to a whimpering mass of pain and exhaustion. His silver eyes had dimmed, the light within them flickering like dying stars. The trap's energy field prevented him from using his natural abilities, the phase shifting that allowed Lavari to move through solid matter, the telepathic communication that made them such valuable companions. He was cut off, isolated, forgotten. Until her. Myra Hale had been tracking the disturbance for hours. The young xenobiologist had set up her research station on Verity 7 6 months ago, studying the local fauna with a dedication that bordered on obsession. When her equipment had picked up the unusual energy signature and the subsequent distress calls that registered just outside human hearing range, she'd grabbed her kit and headed into the forest without hesitation. What she found made her blood run cold. The Lavari was magnificent, even in its suffering. Mira had seen images of the species before. They were legendary across the frontier colonies, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. Fenric was nearly twice her size, his muscular frame designed for power and grace. But now that frame was broken, trembling with exhaustion and pain. His silver eyes tracked her approach with a mixture of hope and primal fear. "Easy," Myra whispered, her voice soft despite the thundering of her heart. "I'm not going to hurt you." Fenric's lips curled back, revealing teeth that could tear through reinforced hull plating. A warning. A desperate last defense from a creature that had learned the hard way that trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. But Myra didn't retreat. This was the moment that would baffle xenobiologists for years to come. This was the inexplicable human tendency that other species found both fascinating and terrifying, the ability to see an apex predator, wounded and dangerous, and feel not fear but compassion. The same instinct that had led ancient humans to befriend wolves on old Earth, to reach across the species barrier with nothing but empathy and stubborn hope. Myra sat down. Right there, 3 meters from a creature that could kill her in seconds. She simply sat down and opened her med kit. "I know you're scared," she said quietly, speaking as much to calm herself as the Lavari. "I know you've been hurt. But that trap is killing you, and I can't just walk away." Fenric's mind was a storm of confusion. Through the haze of pain, his telepathic senses could touch the surface of her thoughts. There was no deception there, no hidden malice. Just genuine concern and a bone-deep determination that reminded him of his own people's warriors. This human was afraid. He could smell it on her, but she wasn't leaving. For the next 3 hours, Mira did the unimaginable. She began by simply talking, explaining every movement, every tool she pulled from her kit. She showed him the electromagnetic disruptor that could disable the trap, held it up so he could see it wasn't a weapon. She described how the pain medication would work, how the regenerative gel would help his wounds heal. And slowly and possibly, Fenric began to understand. This was an ownership. This wasn't the cold transaction of his former master who had seen him as property. This was something his people had a word for, but rarely witnessed from other species. Ka writ the act of helping without expectation of return. When Mira finally moved closer, crawling on her hands and knees to minimize her threatening profile, Fenric didn't strike. When her hands, small and soft compared to his own razor-tipped paws, touched his fur, he didn't phase away. And when she pressed the injector against his neck, administering a dose of pain medication that would have knocked out a creature half his size but merely dulled his agony, he realized something profound. Humans were insane. Beautifully, impossibly insane. The trap's deactivation was quick once Mira had disabled its power source. The energy field dissipated with a crackling hiss, and Fenric's paw was finally free. The flesh was badly burned, the bones fractured, but Mira worked with steady hands, applying regenerative gel and wrapping the injury with specialized bandages that would support his weight. "There," she said finally, sitting back on her heels. Her face was streaked with sweat and luminescent blood, his blood, but she was smiling, actually smiling. "You're going to be okay." Fenric stared at her, his silver eyes wide with something that transcended simple gratitude. In that moment, he understood what made humans so dangerous, so successful despite their physical limitations. It wasn't their technology or their weapons or their expansion across the stars. It was this seemingly suicidal compassion. This ability to look at something alien and dangerous and see not a threat but a being in need of help. As Mira packed up her equipment, Fenric made a decision. The Livara were not pets. They chose their companions through a bond called Velshara, telepathic connection that linked two souls across the barriers of species and language. It was sacred, rare, given only to those deemed worthy. Fenric reached out with his mind, sending a pulse of pure intention toward the human girl who had saved his life. Mira gasped, her eyes widening as she felt the touch of an alien consciousness against her own. Images flooded her mind, not words, but feelings and concepts. Gratitude, respect, and beneath it all, a question. "Will you accept me?" She looked at the great alien wolf, at the intelligence burning in those silver eyes, and she understood. This wasn't about ownership or rescue. This was an offer of partnership, of genuine connection between two beings who should have been impossible allies. Mira reached out her hand, letting it rest gently on Fenric's massive head. "Yes," she whispered. "I accept." And in the forest of Verdes 7, under the light of twin moons, a bond was forged that would echo across the stars, a testament to the unimaginable courage of a human girl who had seen not a monster, but a soul in need of saving.